What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and we are through to the finals. Thank goodness. I think if we hadn't gone through, it would have been pretty embarrassing. But overall, it was a good game. We played well, dominated pretty much all of the game. So it's one of those games where we should win. We did, and we did it how I expected we should. So thank goodness for all of that. As far as the lineup is concerned, I was pleased with the lineup. Still a bit concerned with Cahill in the back as the center of the back three. I don't see him as comfortable on the ball as Christensen is, so I still feel like that isn't really the best option we have there. Thankfully, though, Southampton doesn't have a whole lot going forward, so they didn't really have many chances off of it. On top of that, we dominated the first 10-15 minutes, and they made a tactical decision after that to sort of sit back and just hope to hit us on the counter. And, we've got enough pace in Rudiger and Azpilicueta. They're not going to beat us on the counter. So we managed to contain that. We moved the ball around a lot more. Wasn't as convincing once they started sitting back because we just didn't have enough movement to break them down. But thankfully, Giroud pops up with a nice bit of quality at the beginning of the second half, which causes them to have to open up. And now we can play a little bit more and we can actually move the ball around. So I think the game really played into our hands as far as the tactics were concerned. As far as the subs that came in, I do agree with the players that came on. However, I thought it was weird that we went with Bakayoko comes on for Willian and then Pedro comes on for Fabregas. I thought it should have been Bakayoko comes on for Fabregas because at the time Fabregas really wasn't providing much. On the ball, he's still talented, but he just wasn't finding the passes today. And then on top of that, he's not really helping us out defensively. Bakayoko, on the ball, he can be a little bit shaky too, but defensively, he generally does pretty well. He's tall, he's strong. So I thought it was weird that we brought on Bakayoko for Willian, who was providing us a nice outlet to get down the field. It just didn't seem like the right substitution. And then he brings on Pedro for Fabregas. I'm like, why wasn't that switched? Why did he decide to bring Bakayoko on for Willian and then Pedro on for Fabregas? I don't know. It was weird. Ended up working out okay, but it was definitely a strange substitution. And then the last one was Morata on for Giroud, which is just, giving him some playing time, giving Giroud a break. It was fine. And, glad Morata does come on and score because, he does need to improve. That's been my issue with him. So I'm glad that he does get a goal. I'm glad that can help him grow in confidence because we need him to get better. Because while Giroud is doing well, he's not going to be able to do it again next season, more than likely. And so we're going to need Morata to step up and prove that price tag we bought him for was not completely wasted. So anyway, on to the individuals. Willy Caballero in goal. I'm glad that he is getting his chance to play in the FA Cup. And that is something that I think you see most managers do. When they have two keepers, you've got your main keeper that plays most of the matches of the year, but then you've got your backup keeper. They generally will give them the League Cup and the FA Cup to play in. So gives him another chance, and he made a few good saves today. The one in particular I think that was probably his best save was the one where Redmond picked up the ball, won it off of Fabregas, and then has a shot. It was one of those shots where it's dipping and curling. It can be difficult as a keeper to read that, and he did well to not really try to hold on to it. He just made sure to get his leg in the way, and it deflected wide. It could have been a little bit more convincing, but I think it's a difficult shot to save. And he did make the save, which is good. Aside from that, wasn't really called upon to make too many difficult saves. People will look at the one where Austin sort of backed into him and say, well, he didn't really touch him that much, so it should have been a goal there. Caballero dropped it into the goal. But the thing is, when you're going up for a ball and you're going up to catch it here and a guy bumps you, even if it's just a little bit, it's kind of like you see whenever players going up for a header and somebody gives them a little nudge in behind. It's not a really strong shove. It can just be a little touch, and that can be enough to put you off. I think it's the same thing for keepers. They're jumping up, and as he jumps, Austin bumps him, and that puts him off. So I'm not going to really say that he should have done better there. I do think he should probably come up here and not try to catch it here, but I do think the fact that he dropped it was because Austin bumped him right as he's going up. That puts him off, and I think the referee made the right decision there. Into the defense, Azpilicueta played pretty well again today. He's generally been pretty consistent. He's had a few off games here and there, but for the most part, defensively, he's very solid. And honestly, aside from one kind of crucial mistake by Rudiger, which thankfully Long had a terrible touch, aside from that, the defense was solid today, all three of them. It was mainly their play on the ball that needs to be looked at because, I mean, honestly, that has been one of the issues in the past that we've had is sometimes out of the defense we play it and it's not good enough and we lose it and they're right back at us. So as far as their play on the ball, I thought Azpilicueta, obviously the cross into Morata, something he's done all year. It was good. But his play, aside from that, sometimes it was a good pass and sometimes I thought he didn't see the right pass. There was one in particular where Rudiger was open on the other side of the field. He's got pressure in front of him. He's got somebody stepping here to cut off Cahill's pass. The pass should have gone there. And he drops it back to Willy Caballero, who, like 2 minutes earlier, had been dropped the ball to, and he just, booted it right towards one of Southampton's players. So we already know he's not really good with his feet whenever you play it to him under pressure. And so in that case, the best ball is to find Rudiger across. And instead, Azpilicueta drops it back to Caballero again, who then kicks it. The high lofted ball, thankfully, I think it was Emerson, did well to win it. But it's one of those, why not find that pass across? And we do that sometimes. We have options that are there for us, and then we play it to an option that's not ready or not as good. I don't know why, but he had a few of those today, Azpilicueta. Cahill, a little bit more of the same from what I've seen from kind of giving the ball away needlessly, trying to go long when there's nobody really there, and it just all the way through to the defense or to the keeper. That's generally one of my biggest frustrations with him when he's on the ball. Aside from that, though, his short passes today were better than they have been, because sometimes his short play can be really scary when he's under pressure, tries to do some cheeky turn or tries to do some short pass, and it's a bad one under pressure, and they give it away. But today he kept it calm. He managed to keep the short passes easy and composed. It was just those long balls over the top to nobody that were really frustrating. And then Rudiger on the ball today, didn't really see much of him. Honestly, I don't remember anything that he did on the ball really. So he obviously he did play, but it wasn't anything like he did anything good or anything bad. Everything that he did was just sort of what he should be doing out there. So not really much from him. And then defensively, like I said, that one big mistake where he sort of let Long in behind him, and then Austin let the ball run, Cahill misses it, and then it's through to him. That's kind of a big mistake, and thankfully, like I said, he doesn't capitalize, but it is something that you have to look at and say, why weren't you on him? Why weren't you tracking him? So it's kind of similar to Cahill in the West Ham game, and I think in the Southampton game as well. Aside from that one mistake, there wasn't anything Rudiger really did that made me think good game or bad game. But that one mistake kind of, you're average. That one mistake is like, he had a pretty bad game today. So I think he needs to be doing a bit more to make his presence known. Because I do think in the past few games he has been quiet, both defensively and offensively. So I want to see a bit more from him. I want to see him take charge a bit more back there. Because he has the physical capability to really control the back line. But he doesn't normally do it. It's like he doesn't have the mentality to. So the wingbacks, Emerson and Moses, both played pretty well. One of the big things that I think is really helping us is Emerson, Moses, both with pace, can both get up and down the line. And I think that's huge. I think Zappacosta mainly gets up the line but then doesn't get back. And he doesn't really have the speed to. Alonso, he'll do both, but he's a bit slower, so he doesn't have the speed to really get up and down the line as effectively as Emerson can. Now, the play on the ball is something that I've been wondering about. Can Emerson move the ball around as well as Alonso can? Today he did. I thought he played well today, and I thought it's something that we need to look at. I'm not necessarily saying, Emerson definitely take Alonso's spot, because I do think the one thing Alonso brings that Emerson does not is he provides the strength and the height. Alonso is tall and he's strong, and Emerson is kind of short and quick. So it's similar to Moses in that they're both short and quick, and Alonso and Zappacosta are more the big and strong. So it kind of depends on what you need. If you want to go more of a back four, Alonso's better as a left back option. whereas Emerson is better more as a wing back option. I think the same thing for Moses. He's better as a wing back than he is a fullback. But both of them, they had some good moments on the ball. I think of the two, Emerson probably had the better play just because they tended to go towards the left side a bit more. But defensively, I thought they both played very well, and that's good to see. We need wingbacks who are going to do the defensive side of it because, in my opinion, we have a couple that aren't willing to do the defensive side of it sometimes. So, into the middle, Fabregas, like I said, didn't really have a good game today. His passes weren't coming off. Defensively, he wasn't really helping us. I mean, the big one for me, right before he got taken off, which is, I think, part of why he got taken off, ball comes out, and he's closer to the ball than Redmond is, but Redmond is quicker to get there. He's quicker to read it. Fabregas loses it, and it leads to one of the best shots that they had. Yeah, it is kind of like, why aren't you getting there? What's wrong? He has been a bit slower this season than he was last season. I do think age is catching up to him. However, I don't think he's useless yet. I think it really depends on the game. If it's a game where we need somebody who can distribute well, we still need Fabregas. But in a game like today where distribution isn't the big thing because Southampton are only committing like 2 players forward, we need someone who's going to make sure they don't have the ability to counter on us because eventually we're going to create that chance. However, if we're open to the counterattack, if we're letting them have the time and space to really get down the field, it can be scary sometimes. And with a player like Fabregas in there, he's not going to give you a whole lot on defense. So I do think that needs to be looked at, and either we need to find somebody that can start to sort of take over that position from him, or we need to find a solution for when do we need to play Fabregas and when do we need to play Bakayoko or Drinkwater. Conte, of course, doing the Conte stuff that he always does, just reading stuff in the midfield, winning challenges, winning the first ball, always putting in a good challenge to make sure they don't have possession going forward. So I think he does that job so well, and there aren't many players that do it better than he does. So I'd love to have him in there always in pretty much every single game. And then we get up into the front three, Willian and Hazard and Giroud. I'll be honest, kind of missed the first 5 minutes because I was tired from last night, and so I woke up a little bit late and came down and was like, oh, game's already started. Great, I missed some of it. But I did get to see like the end part of that run of possession and really good play that we had at the beginning of the first half. And that's where the movement was all over the place. Southampton were having difficulty tracking runs, and it just felt so fluid. But then when Southampton started packing it in, the game changed. You could see that the runs weren't happening as much because they were being tracked by 2 or 3 runners. The ball comes into them, their touch, it's difficult because they're under pressure. And so for a majority of the first half, I'm thinking, it's not quite good enough. From Hazard, from Willian, from Giroud, it feels like it could be better. There could be more movement. But second half, Giroud gets the early goal, and then after that, that's when their play really started to open up, and that's when the 3 up front really started to shine their most. So, I think all 3 of them, on the whole of it, had a good game. The first half, obviously the first 10, 15 minutes was good, but most of the first half was a bit frustrating, and I think a lot of that was down to the fact Southampton had packed it in. Once the play opened up, once we got that goal in the second half, that's when it really showed that, a big part of it was the 9 men behind the ball. It makes it difficult sometimes. So I'm glad that they did have a chance to open up and show a bit of what they're capable of. Of the 3, though, I would say Hazard probably had the best game just because he was back to that same old, picking up the ball, running into space, trying to find passes into space for people. He looked back to that Hazard that we were used to seeing in the second half mainly. Willian, I will say I think he showed a little bit too much frustration in coming off. I do understand it, and I was kind of there with him. However, you don't show that. You don't show your frustration by just charging down the tunnel whenever your team is a goal up. I don't know. I just think you should keep your composure there a bit more. Even if you are frustrated, you keep your composure, and after the game, that's when you show your frustration, unless we go on to win it easily. And then Giroud, I think once again, first half kind of had some moments where I'm just like, this is exactly the type of performance that those people that want to doubt him and say, oh, he can't start, this is what they're going to look at. However, second half, gets that goal, brilliant little run, and then after that, he just, oh, the play was just fantastic. The little flicks, holding up the ball, trying to find a pass off. I mean, it just, once the play opened up, it looks so much better from him. And I think it's showing that he really does have the capability to be our number one striker. Until Murata can get better, because I do think, Murata is a good player, but he hasn't grown accustomed to the league yet. He hasn't really gotten the strength to play in the league yet. Giroud already has it. So I'm thinking until Murata can really grow in confidence and really start to get better as a striker, I think Giroud's our best option. So great to see him play well. As far as the subs that came on, Bakayoko, he did well enough. Didn't really do anything spectacular that made me think, okay, now we can trust him. But defensively, he did his job well. Pedro comes on and provides that hard work to win the ball back that I expected to see from him, and is honestly why I think he probably should have been on a bit sooner. And then Murata comes on and gets the headed goal, and on top of that, he did provide a few good passes of play. I do think part of that is down to the fact that at that point Southampton were very opened up, and when he has time and space to play, you can see he's a player. It's whenever he's put under high pressure or whenever there's a ton of people around him, a ton of defenders around him, he doesn't have the space to play, he's not as effective. And a lot of that is just down to the fact that he's not that strong a defender, so he's not going to be able to play under high pressure from a defender. So hopefully maybe in the offseason he can get a bit stronger, or he can find a way to play under that pressure, find a way to get turned off the defender. But whatever the case, right now Giroud is definitely still our best option. Great to see we're going into the final, but we're going in against Man U. And while they are a beatable team, it's still one of those where we haven't really done well against them this year because we tend to sort of give them too much space. We tend to sit off and let them have control of the game. And I feel like when you do that, it's just you're playing right into their hands. You're letting Mourinho and Man U have the type of game that they want to have. So I do think we need to look at our tactics going into it. I think we need to be much more aggressive, just because you give them the time and space to play, they will. And aside from that, obviously in the league, big focus right now is trying to get into those Champions League spots. Liverpool dropped some points yesterday. Tottenham obviously not really their best run right now, drawing Brighton midweek and then losing to Man U in the semifinals. So we have a chance to catch both of them now. I feel like we've got to put together a nice string of wins as the last part of the season comes to close. And I think that needs to be our big focus right now, because the FA Cup doesn't come until later. So I am hesitant to say we need to solely focus on the league, but I do think at least right now, while the FA Cup is still in the distance, let's focus on getting those wins. We got a tough run of fixtures. We got Liverpool on the horizon. I want to say we have West Brom as well, and they've stepped up recently. So we definitely need to make sure that we're focused on getting these wins and putting pressure on Tottenham and Liverpool, causing them to drop some points. Obviously beating Liverpool, it will cause them to drop points. So yeah, that's all from me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.